way I did it was putting my career on the line because I work in the legal profession, and I got myself restricted from venues through the barring scheme. It is a predatory industry with a predatory product.
I solemnly swear that I will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.
Hi guys, Ron here from The Truth About Addiction. Today's guest is Anna Martin. Anna's given us the privilege of coming on our show and sharing her experience, strength and hope, and hopefully somebody takes something from this and it helps them in their journey with whatever they're going through. So Anna, welcome to The Truth About Addiction.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure, darling. So Anna, I guess the first thing to ask is, what's the Anna Martin story?
Look, that's a good question. Born in Adelaide to a couple of teachers. Always loved learning books. Went through school, happy childhood. Parents divorced when I was about 12, and have an amazingly supportive mum who's a bit of a powerhouse who I lived with for most of my teenage years. And life started to get a bit tricky for me when I was about 14, 15, diagnosed with anxiety, depression, and then transitioned into a fairly significant gambling addiction, which finished, well, I don't actually think it has finished, but has been under control for 5 years now.
Okay. So when you reached out to our program is called The Truth About Addiction. So that tells me that there must be some addiction issue with you, or
Story is, yeah, I got more than one.
Obsessive compulsive. I've been doing this for a long time. I'm a recovering heroin addict. And people say to me, "What do you mean you're recovering?" I say, "Well, I don't use heroin anymore." They say, "But ain't you fixed?" I said, "Not if I use heroin." Not if I use heroin, I'm not fixed, you know?
Oh, look, my issue was poker machines and still is poker machines. And I very firmly believe that if I touch a poker machine, I'll be in trouble again. So I think addiction is a bit of a spectrum. For me, it's never truly over. It's just well managed at the moment.
Oh, I 100% agree. As I said to you, I haven't had a drug since 1986.
Wow.
And I haven't had a drink since 1982. But I'm not for 1 minute do I think that I can have a drink.
Yeah, 100%.
Or have a drug.
Yeah.
I keep my obsessive compulsive behavior and my allergy. I call it an allergy. Mm. You know, I have a thinking problem, not a drinking problem.
I love that.
I think I can drink.
Yeah.
I think I can use drugs. I think I can gamble, because I too am a gambler who doesn't gamble, and I haven't gambled for quite some time. God, not as long as the other ones. So gambling was the machines are very seductive. All the bells and the whistles and the lights flashing and people cheering and all that sensual, come to me.
Oh, look, designed to addict. I firmly believe that. I have a tattoo on my arm that says 1 is too many and 1,000 is not enough. So I know that's a very kind of stereotypical thing that comes out of some gambling support groups. But for me, that's really true. Like as I said to you, I firmly believe that if I touch it again, I'm in trouble. So I have structured my life in a way that means I'm not exposed to it anymore. I am envious of people who feel they can play in moderation, but that's certainly not me, and it certainly has never been me ever since I first touched a Pokey machine.
Yeah, and that's what I found too. I've never been a weekend warrior, so to speak. Yeah. You know, once too many, 1,000 is never enough, and I can no longer guarantee my behaviour. You know, from my experience with gambling, my father was a gambler.
Yeah.
My father didn't drink or drug, but he was a gambler, which I found the disease of gambling more detrimental than alcoholism and drug addiction.
Oh, 100%. I mean, my dad was an alcoholic as well. I was introduced to gambling in a way that was celebratory. So my exposure to Pokey started when my family and I went out for lunches at pubs, like the typical Australian Saturday lunch with the family at the pub. And we always went to one particular venue where there was a glass, like a frosted glass screen. And I remember going, this is amazing. Like behind it, there's bells, there's whistles, there's people laughing. And I only ever remember from my teenage years the part where people walked out looking happy. I never triggered, well, not triggered, that's not quite the right word, but I never twigged that there was another side of this. That I never saw the pain, I never saw the fear, I never saw the guilt, and I never saw the shame until this became an addiction for me. And I think that it's really important to say that this kind of addiction doesn't discriminate between men and women. And gambling is quite often pitched as a male problem. And in my opinion, that further stigmatizes women that do have an issue because it affects people equally. It just means some people might not talk about it as much as others, but I think it does affect people equally.
My experience today, 2024,
Yeah,
if you go into a pub and you watch how many people on the poker machines or a club, most of them are women.
100%.
Most of them are
And
women.
I think women quite often, like I've talked to a lot of women who have got gambling addictions, and that's what I'm trying to raise awareness of with the organization that we're trying to start is women don't tend to speak about this as an addiction. There's a lot of fear, there's a lot of guilt, and there's a lot of shame, as I said. And there's organizations that have been set up for people that want to speak and want to be vocal and want to be public. But um, I've spoken to women who've gone out of the house at 10 o'clock at night because they're having relationship problems and there's nowhere else they feel safe to go. I've spoken to women who fell into addiction because they've spent time wanting to spend time with their partners who were doing this as a hobby. And myself, this developed as me spending time with my grandfather, who I loved deeply, who died in 2005 and introduced me to this, probably not knowing the kind of effect that it had on me. And I've kept it hidden for years from almost everybody who loves me. And I don't know why now, but I've decided that now is the time for me to start speaking out and see if I can help people make change and help women feel supported, especially because as I've been going through and doing advocacy and work, there's not a space for this conversation, and there needs to be.
There needs to be a conversation because I believe that the secrets die in the light of day.
Yeah.
And secrets are the thing that kill us.
Yeah.
Because I explain to a lot of my clients that we have defects of character, we have shortcomings, we have these issues that we choose to mask with gambling, sex, drugs, whatever. It doesn't matter what it is, compulsive eating, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Just all these symptoms over here are really for the underlying problem. So what we tend to do is we feel shame, guilt, remorse, regret. So we go and gamble to change the way we feel, or we go and drink or drug to change the way we feel. So then we leave there because for me, as a gambler, it didn't matter how much I won, I was never satisfied.
100% agree. Me too.
Very rarely did I walk away from a machine with money. And if I did, I'd have regret that I should have stayed because I was going to win the jackpot next spin.
And I think I always describe it to people like a circle. Like I used to gamble because I felt like crap. I'd go in there and get the dopamine hit from feeling better with a win or a loss disguised as a win. I'd keep going to the point where I've either lost everything or felt terrible because I told people that I couldn't be somewhere because I wanted to gamble. And then I'd leave feeling even worse about myself and be back at the top of the circle again. And it was just a circle that went over and over and over again. And I'm not a stupid person. Like I could recognize the behavior, but it took me years to figure out how to cut it.
Yeah. That's why I guess they talk about powerlessness.
Yeah.
And they talk about in 12-step programs, the second step is making the same mistake and expecting different results is insanity.
Definition of insanity. Yeah.
And the definition of insanity, Albert Einstein said it, the 12-step programs didn't make that up, even though they take, they get more recognition for it because it's preached from the floors of 12-step programs. But that's a very old saying, that making the same mistake and expecting different results is a form of insanity.
Mm-hmm.
For me, gambling is a form of self-abuse.
It is.
Drug addiction is a form of self-abuse. It's emotionally and spiritually slashing up. Because every time I did it reassured my bad thinking that I was worthless, useless, and hopeless, just as my brain told me I was.
I've done that. I've stopped eating because I've felt that way. I've self-harmed because I've felt that way. The reason I'm covered in tattoos now is because I made a promise to myself that I would never cut over a tattoo. And the only reason I've stopped is because I'm covered. And I got to the point where I went, I'm going to have to put something on the line here to make myself stop, which is important to me. And the way I did it was putting my career on the line because I work in the legal profession, and I got myself restricted from venues through the barring scheme in South Australia. And I knew that if I was caught in one of those venues, that the repercussions of that associated with the penalties for being caught would affect my career. But it took that to make me stop. And it is a predatory industry with a predatory product that preys on people who are vulnerable. And the discussion needs to be far more public than it is about that, I think.
I've been doing this for 43 years, and I call it a predator.
Yeah.
And you're the second person I've ever heard call it that.
Really? Oh, we must be on the right page together.
Yeah. I've always called it a predator.
It is.
It's going to sound horrible. I call my disease thinking, a pedophile.
Yeah.
Because it's been screwing me since I was a kid.
Yeah.
But the reason I called it a pedophile was that my dislike for pedophilia is so much that I would refuse to listen to it.
Yeah.
So I called it the pedophile. And sometimes it's too much for people. They can't cope with that saying that I have, But for me, it keeps me sober. It keeps me clean. It keeps me sane.
Yeah.
Because why would I listen to a pedophile? When a pedophile tells me I'm useless, worthless, and hopeless, I don't listen to him. When the pedophile says, you'll win this time, I'll tell you a funny story. This is a true story. I was in Rio, Nevada, gambling. This is in 1987. And I'd gone over there to do an NA conference for Narcotics Anonymous.
Oh, wow.
Because I was in 12 steps. And I went with my sponsor and another guy who was a bad gambler. We're all recovering alcoholic addicts. And one of the guys and I decided this is boring. We were helping write the literature for the NA programs. And we nicked off. We went to Rio, Nevada, where the casinos are.
Yeah.
And to a place called Lake Tahoe. And we met up with an Asian lady over there who was a card counter, professional gambler. And her daughter was a professional pokies. She'd do the system on pokies. And the old lady said to me, she goes, Ron, when you're sitting there and you're playing blackjack. And I'm like, yeah, I'm forget how old I was those days. I wasn't, I was a lot younger. It's a long time ago. It's nearly 28 years ago. And more, 38 years ago. And I said, yeah. And she said, and you have that feeling I'm going to win? She goes, yeah. I went, yeah. She goes, that's all bullshit. And it shattered me because she was analytical. She wasn't addicted. She was a professional card player. And she said, that's all bullshit. That's what the casino wants you to believe. And I'm like,
if you take away the pictures and the noise on a Pokey machine, it's essentially an Excel spreadsheet that changes numbers. And I wonder sometimes if you did show people the guts of what's behind it, if that would be enough to stop people, but I don't think it is. And the thing that gets me with I've probably spoken to hundreds of people that have had problems or are going through problems, myself included. Like, I would go to meetings and then go to the pokies after the meetings, and I could never understand why in my head I could justify that, because it was like I was doing something that was good for myself. So if I did something that was bad for myself, it doesn't necessarily mean I'm out of whack, you know? So I think that traditional mechanisms of helping people who are going through these kind of problems, sometimes they work and sometimes they don't, and encouraging conversation about new ways and new ways of thinking, now is the time.
To me, Kerry Packer, who I think was Australia's greatest businessman.
Yeah.
I may be wrong, I may be right, I don't know. I had the pleasure of meeting Kerry Packer personally.
Wow.
And we were in Las Vegas, but I was in Vegas for a different reason. I was in Vegas for the boxing.
Yeah.
I'm a boxing ex-boxer and I'm a fanatic. And
oh, cool.
I went to Vegas to watch Jeff Fennick fight a guy called Azuma Nelson, and Kerry Packer came over, you know. And he's a massive gambler. He said, gambling is only a problem when you lose more than you can afford. And I thought about it, because by that time I'd already stopped gambling. You know, I went to Vegas and never gambled. You know, I just don't gamble anymore. I don't buy lottery tickets. I don't bet on the Melbourne Cup. I don't go into sweepstakes, because gambling is gambling. You know, I gambled in other ways. I gambled with my freedom because I was a career criminal. So I gambled in other ways, and you know, I used to get that dopamine rush from doing crime and all that sort of bullshit. And I had to stop that because that was detrimental to my, detrimental to my liberty for a start, but it was detrimental to my spirituality, because I believe that's what recovery needs. Recovery needs a spiritual connection. I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about spiritual. And to me, a spiritual connection is in your heart.
I don't disagree with that. I mean, I'm not a religious person, but I do think it's almost like a totem. Like, you've got to have something you can hang on to and something that you live for. And for me, that was my mum, because she was a tough woman. She got through a divorce. She beat cancer. She saw people around her die, who she was close to. She helped my brother through fairly life-risking sort of surgery. And at the depths of my addiction, I knew that I couldn't do anything to hurt myself or leave this where we are now, because it would kill her, and she didn't deserve that. And I want to make it clear, I could have gotten help from her at any time. She could have helped me at any time, and she would have. But I couldn't speak. It was almost like, the way I think about it is, if you think about a character like Little Red Riding Hood in the woods with a wolf, it's the predator's kind of analogy again, is I was frozen for years. I could not speak about the fact that I needed help until I got to the point where I was ready to go, yep, okay, I need help, and I need to do it through a system, because that's the way my brain thinks. So I got help through the self-barring system, and that worked for me. I know it doesn't work for everybody, but it worked for me. And my headset now is around systemic advocacy, because that's what I think needs to happen.
Yeah. So what did you went to the 12-step programs, they didn't work for you?
I did Pokies Anonymous for a while, and there's an amazing powerhouse woman here in Adelaide who ran that, and I directly credit her with helping me stop gambling. But no, it didn't work because it was inconsistent, and I used it as an excuse to be out and go to venues after meetings, which I didn't need to do. But I told myself I was going to stop, and I did a lot. But that was never consistent. And the only thing that stopped me was the self-barring from the venues.
Yeah. I did that similar thing in the first year of my recovery. This time I banned King's Cross because I was a heroin addict in King's Cross, and I just banned it. Said I will not go to that area because that's where I did most of my using in the end.
Yeah.
So I just completely banned it, and I've banned casinos. I don't ban casinos now. I've been to a casino with my wife, and I gave her $200, and I said, put that in the poker machine because my wife doesn't gamble. She's not an addict at all. And she put the $200 in the thing, and she started playing the machine. And I said, no. Full bet, all the reels, go. She went, 1, 2, 3, $200 was gone. She said, that was boring. I said, I used to do that every day.
Me too.
And she just looked at me and said, that was fucked. I said, darling, you didn't get the feeling I got. I said, because, see, a lot of people don't understand gambling, because I've got the misfortune or the fortune of counselling a lot of people who've been through gambling. And they don't understand that a gambler's rush is the same as a drug addict's rush. Watching the wheel spin and X coming up, this time it's gonna, ding, ding. It's like, yeah, fucking yeah, it's gonna happen. Then bang, the drop. Then next time, bang, this time, and I'll do 4 more. 1, 2, 3. That bullshit that we talk to ourselves is the same as using drugs. I have friends who have lost so much money on racehorses. They say when the horse comes around the top end of the straight, the rush they get for the whole thing is better than using drugs.
Oh, yeah. Better than sex. Better than
Yeah.
anything you can think of.
Well, it has to be because it took over our lives. We gave everything up for that, whatever our drug of choice is. And to me, gambling is just another drug.
100%. That's why I've never touched any kind of drugs, because I know how susceptible I am to getting into that cycle of chasing dopamine. And for me as well, I've had weird addiction transfer. Like I switched over to overeating and ended up having to have weight loss surgery, and I've lost almost 100 kilos from weight loss surgery.
Okay,
and
wow.
Now I've noticed as well that, those claw machines that pick up toys, I became super obsessed with those because it was chasing the same cycle in my brain. And I thought that it didn't matter because it wasn't bad because I got good at it. And everybody knew me as being the person who was good at it, and people thought it was funny. But it took me a while to go, no, wait a minute, this is just another form of gambling.
Yeah, 100%. It's the feeling. It's our motivation behind what we do.
Yeah. And a report came out this week that said a Pokey venue is more common than a post box in most cities around Australia. And Australia has something like 20% of the world's gambling machines. Like, how are addicts supposed to recover when this is so prevalent and people aren't talking about it?
And and that's why we're doing this show today, because we want people to talk about it. I also do a lot of work with survivors of sexual abuse.
Yeah.
And they've just had a Royal Commission into sexual abuse in New Zealand. And we're starting a company over there later on to help the survivors. But it's not just get the financial return. I want to have a back end onto it where they also have financial assistance and education.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
Where they don't just get their money, they get taught how to deal with their money, and they also get some psychology and some drug addiction or whatever problems they've got, what are the mental health issues they're dealing with. So we fix that, because you give somebody $100,000 or 200,000 or 300,000, whatever it is, and they've never had money. That's all going to either go into a gambling casino or go into a drug dealer or be misappropriated somehow.
Yeah.
So sometimes giving somebody a gift is a punishment.
Because it's something else you have to manage.
Yeah. So what we have to do is educate the people how to use it, because you talked about it before, like information's power. It is. Information's power. We have to have information. That's what we're doing now. We're informing people that, hey, there is a way.
Yeah,
this is my experience. This is my strength. And here's some hope.
Yeah. And
because for me, there was no hope.
And that makes me sad, because there is always hope. And there is always someone out there who's been through what you've been through, who's willing to talk to you, but you don't know that unless the discussions like these occur. And you don't know that unless people are brave enough, like you and I, to have these kinds of open discussions and say, hey, wait a minute, mate, you don't have to put up with this. You don't have to live your life in a way that is underpinned by guilt and fear and shame. There are people that are going to listen when you're ready to seek help.
100%. And that's, so what are you starting? You're starting a
not-for-profit, or trying to, around full-time work. So it's called the Untangled Project, and I've got a great group of women who I've linked together, some of whom are lived experience advocates like me, and some of whom do the things that are required in a not-for-profit better than I do. So we've got a social media presence. We're on Instagram. It's the Untangled Project AUS, and the board is meeting together for the first time next week. And what we're aiming to do is create a safe and non-judgmental space for women who are seeking help in this area. And it's the critical thing for me, and I will not do this project without recognizing this, is it's okay if you just want some information, if you just want to go to a website where you know that it's safe and non-judgmental and you want to read a bit about addiction or learn a bit about people that have survived it. It's okay if you want to interact with a woman who's in your state or territory, who will be a safe space for you, who can recommend GPs that we trust, who can recommend financial counsellors that we know will help and not judge. And it's also okay if you want to talk about it, raise the roof and go forward for systemic change. I've given evidence in royal commissions. I've done national advocacy on boards related to gambling reform. And the whole way through, this is probably 10 years of advocacy, I've been going, wait a minute, there's no space here just for women. There's a lot of space for men, and there's a lot of discussion around men's gambling, but there is almost nothing around women's. And there's a great academic, Dr. Simone McCarthy, who works in Deakin University, who's done a lot of research in this area as well. And some of the words and studies that she's done, I'm hoping to pick up on and use as the organisation develops, because she's having real, honest and open conversations with women who haven't ever spoken like this before.
That's beautiful. That's so nice. I just know that gambling is horrific. People just underestimate the damage that it does to families, to the community, society. It repulses me when I sit on watch the football, because I'm a tragic football watcher, and everything's betting. And then they got this insulting, degrading, humiliating idea that they can say at the end of it, gamble responsibly. If you have a problem, dial this number.
Some serious bullshit. Serious bullshit. There's a responsible service of gambling code. It's not enforced. If you're drunk, you'll get kicked out of a pub. But I've spoken to addicts people who are recovering from the negative impacts of gambling harm, who have said, I sat in a pub for 10 hours. I lost $3,000. I took $200 at a time out over the bar, and not one staff member came up to me and said, hey, mate, don't you think you've had enough? Don't you think you should go home? Don't you think you should take the win that you've had and walk out? It is not... I don't know if it's a lack of training. I don't know if it's just because people don't care. I don't know if it's just because this is such a profit-driven industry that staff know that if you learn a little bit about the person who's in the venue, maybe you know their name, maybe you know they've got kids, maybe you know they went to Thailand recently on a holiday, and ask those questions, give them a coffee, talk to them for a while, you're going to stay longer. And creating environments that are like that is just another level of reinforcing addictive behaviours, I think.
Yeah, I had a client, I still contact with him, gambling. He's got divorced, sold his house, lost $300,000 in 6 months in the same RSLs and clubs.
Wow.
Like they'd seen it. They'd seen him lose $300,000. He just split up with his wife and blah, blah, blah. And, and he'd tell people openly, I'm doing it really tough. I've had to split up with the missus. And here he's just going, do $300,000 in 6 months.
That's insane.
It took him 15 years of working his ass off to get that $300,000 saved. Fucking, I hated it. It's like, and then they have the audacity to say gamble responsibly. Could you imagine someone saying to me in the midst of my heroin addiction, just inject it slowly?
Yeah. Don't just do a little bit. You'll be fine. No.
It really repulses me that they think that we're so stupid that as a society, and we are in a lot of ways. Society is very ignorant. Unless it's affecting somebody in their family, they got their head in the sand.
I worry about younger people as well, because what I've started to notice through the gambling industry is that like there's some campaigns that are using influencers, social media influencers, and pitching towards younger people. And I wonder, it sort of parallels to me what the tobacco industry did when they started using women that were sexualized as part of advertising, and this new advertising that's coming out using these influencers and targeting these younger people. It's clever, don't get me wrong, it's a good advertising tactic, but it doesn't promote any form of responsibility to me. And my addiction and problems started from my early 20s, so it to me is setting people up to have,
and you can do it on your phone now too.
As being okay. Yeah, absolutely. Like there's a episode of, have you ever seen You Can't Ask That on the ABC? There's an episode of that gambling that's about gambling, and one of the recovering people in that says there's always something to bet on, and he was betting at 1 a.m. on curling in Finland because you can on your phone.
That's what my mate explained to me. My friends, people that I've done programs with, have said to me, I bet on the basketball in America. I said, do you understand basketball? No. I bet on baseball. Who do you like? I don't even know anyone in baseball.
Don't know. Yeah.
It's just the fact of having a bet.
Yeah.
My old man used to say to me, I'd bet on two flies crawling up a wall.
My grandfather used to say that too.
Yeah. My father owned illegal gambling casinos in Melbourne in the 70s.
Yeah.
He owned the two-up games and the baccaras and all the illegal casinos, like in Victoria, because I came from Victoria originally, and I just watched people there because it started 8 o'clock at night and finished at 6 o'clock in the morning. So all them men that were there weren't at home, and all them men that were there were going out to work the next morning. So they were at the casino all night, then go to whatever their jobs were. A lot of them those days were waterside workers, but we had a lot of politicians, we had a lot of TV celebrities, singers and all that coming to these illegal casinos. Again, nothing's changed. As you said, social media is promoting it now. Dana White, the head of the UFC, showing on his Instagram where he's just lost $7 million in a session.
Jesus.
And just bullshit like that. Like it's so detrimental. I hate gambling.
Me too.
Because it affected me so badly as a child, and yet I still gambled. Not for as long as the other ones, but it was more insidious. It was more insidious for me, gambling.
I think for me as well, I used to justify it. Like I'd say, my life's crap. I feel like crap. I need to do something to make myself feel good, or I work hard. It's okay if I lose $50, but it's never just $50. Like even now, I hate $20 notes because it was always just going to be $20. And every time I see a $20 note, it just shivers down my spine because I can't do it.
It's a trigger.
Yeah.
It's a trigger. So you're going to make a safe space for ladies to contact you and...
Correct, yeah. So when you and all the women that are helping me put this together have full-time jobs, so we're not an immediate help kind of program, but what we are is a referral service, and we'll work with you if you contact us through the Instagram page seeking assistance for a referral to somewhere near you. We'll make sure you get the help that you need. I'm not a counsellor. I'm not an expert. I'm just somebody that's going on this journey and have gotten myself to a point where I'm happy and I feel like I'm okay to help other women. And if I can help one woman not go through what I experienced, that's my aim.
You understand the therapeutic value of one gambler helping another?
I
Is
do.
that parallel?
I do. And my goal eventually is to say to women that seek help from my organization, our organization, we'd really like you to pay it forward. So, say, for example, you source information from me, um, then somebody else who lives near you contacts my program. Maybe you might like to have a coffee with them. Maybe you can
Yep.
send them a direct message on social media, because I really want to promote that there's a supportive network of women out there who will always be available to listen and hear you if you need it.
Mm, mm. I think it's so nice. I think it's really beautiful.
Thank
So
you.
I commend you on that. I really do. It's just such a important, necessary job.
I'm not ever going to stop either. I
Yeah,
think it's so
good.
critical. And the women that are surrounding me are so strong and so united in the belief that change needs to occur. It is warming my heart to know what I think we can achieve together. So I'm brand new. I'm doing this, like I said, around full time work. I've never done anything like this before, but I'm going to try and help as many people as I can.
Yeah, I believe you. You know, take away the word try. I'm going to
Fair
help these
point.
people the best I can, and I think,
Fair point.
yeah, and I think the reality is, by helping other people, we help ourselves.
Yeah, I
And
agree with that.
I really believe that. That's why I still do what I do.
Yeah.
I do this podcast because I want to do it. I don't take sponsorship. I don't take anything. It costs me money to do it. And you know what? Money's not relevant. Money's not relevant. At the end of the day, when I'm laying on my deathbed, I won't be thinking, oh, God, I hope a U-Haul trailer comes tomorrow and puts all my property in the back and buries it with me.
Yeah.
I'm going to have my memories. I'm going to have my belief systems. I'm going to have my dignity to know that, I was a human being, not a human taking. Because when I'm in active addiction, I'm a human taking. I don't like being that person. I didn't stop. Sorry, Dom.
No, I was just going to say, for a long time, I've felt that. I was taking from the world what I needed to exist. And this is going to help me start living,
Yeah.
because I haven't for a long time.
I really believe that the greatest gift we can have is giving. I really do. All the people that I've looked up to, I search. I like to search. I'm looking for. I really do look, and I pull things apart. I went to India. I went to ashrams and done the spiritual journey there. I've read the Bible. I've read the Quran. I've gone into Buddhism. I've done all these things, and I've taken something out of every single thing of them because I'm
Yeah.
a seeker. I'm
Yeah.
seeking something, and all I'm seeking. The funny part is, all the years I'm 70 years of age in a few days. All the stuff I've been seeking has been inside of me the whole time.
It's funny, isn't it? Because it sounds like a Disney movie, but it really is true. I always knew, even in the depths of the shit that I was going through, that there was going to be something that came out of this that was going to help people. And my grandfather, whose initials I have tattooed on the inside
Yep.
of my arm, so I never forget him, I lay no fault or blame at anyone in my family for this. I am grateful that I was raised by who I was raised by, because it's that strength and that belief that has gotten me to the point where I've gone, no, I can talk about this and I can use my experience to help other people, because I come from a long line of strong bastards who did exactly the same thing. So
Yeah.
I'm glad, in a way, that I went through this, because it's made me stronger. It's made me a passionate advocate, and it's made me absolutely committed to change when I spot bullshit as well.
Yeah, exactly. You can't bullshit a bullshitter.
Amen.
I say it all the time. You can't con a con, buddy. When they
Yep.
start talking shit to me, I have clients that think they're going to run rings around me. And I start laughing. I say, I wrote that book. The bullshit you're telling me, I was saying it 50 years ago, you
Yeah.
dickhead,
I made the game come
Yeah,
play.
I wrote that book, When I was in active addiction, we didn't even know there was such a word as active addiction.
Yeah.
I got clean before NA even started. We were part of the founding program of starting the 12-step program in Australia. My sponsor and my best friends are all the guys that originally started it, in 1981.
Um,
So that's where I got clean in 81,
yeah.
and I relapsed again in 85. But no, the reality is it's not about quantity, it's about quality. It's about life. It's about living the best life you can have, being happy, being content. So, my dear, we're going to wind up in a minute. And I'm going to ask you this question. What is your purpose?
My purpose is to speak up, listen, and ensure that people around me recognize that they're not alone.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
And you can only keep what you got by giving it away.
Exactly right.
Believe me, I say that with a clear conscience and open mind. Like what I give away today, I get 10 times the rewards. I don't do it for that reason, but I've found that's the benefit of being a giving person.
I've been silent for a long time, but given in other ways, I've always known that something positive was going to come out of this. This is what it is.
Yeah,
And I can't
beautiful.
wait for it to unfold and go down a track that I know can help a lot of people.
So, from the Truth About Addiction, thank you very much, Anna, and good luck with your journey.
Thank
And
you.
it's been
Thank
a
you for
pleasure
having
talking
me.
to you.
I solemnly swear that I will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.